to our YouTube friends. When the HBO Max people came to my house in Vermont, I really enjoyed the presence of the crew. There was 11 people on the crew, and they were, taking footage to use, and they used the footage of my playing my drum set with harmonica, so I was going to do a little bit of that. Except I'm used to doing this with the whole set, so I can use my feet for the beat. So it's a little bit harder with the congas and the djembe. at an incredible speed, so that it was, if it would have continued, it would have looked like it was going to go into the Gulf of Mexico. But it didn't. It did another right angle turn and continued south. And I watched it go out of sight. I remember thinking at the time, I wonder if that was intelligently controlled. And that was after I joined the team, though, and I didn't even really believe in UFOs that much. So that was like, okay, I'm getting some evidence here. I'm still not going to tell that story because it can go on and on and on. But I want to introduce another member of the group, a former member of the group, who came from Venezuela to be in this meeting, as he did last year. And his name is, he's known as Juan. I think that's, in English, it's probably John, right? And we were together in the group for a bunch of years. And he left for his own reasons, and just like I left for my own reasons. And he's going to participate in our talk. And his natural language is Spanish from Venezuela. And he's got a lot to add to the conversation about TNO because he knows everything that there is to know about them in terms of, well, it's hard to really describe what we know about TNO because the media has bombarded us with a lot of misinformation. And I don't want to take a lot of hours trying to talk about all the misinformation unless you ask questions in that regard. And then I'll try to give you some succinct answers. But if you want to get real thorough answers to a lot of questions, then I suggest you go to my blog, sawyerhg.wordpress.com, and search on the keywords that you're interested in learning about, the more accurate way of thinking about a lot of the things that the media said. And then you can see for yourself why I have so much to say about a lot of the things that they were accused of, you know, because nobody likes them. You know, everybody thinks that they're evil, and not everybody, of course. Some people are curious because they enough time has passed, and it's very clear that their position was they were against suicide, actually. And people say to me, how can they be against suicide when they committed suicide? Well, because from their belief, which I feel strongly is the most accurate truth that we have, there's two parts to a human being. There's the body and mind that comes from the genes and the ancestors and the parentage growing up and the society and our choices through all those experiences that we have. That builds our mind. That form of, when a human takes their vehicle, their body, their own life, they're missing out on the opportunity to grow the other part of their being, and that is the soul part of their being. And not everybody has one of those, but everybody can have one of those if they want one. And even if you have one of those, it doesn't mean that you're growing it. Because the next level above human, the evolutionary level above human, which in the old archaic terminology was called the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God, and all those words have been distorted to death, so they don't even mean anything anymore. But they do have references to reality, that this planet was created And all life forms on it were created for a purpose. And that purpose is to be a training ground for potential members of a physical, evolutionary, kingdom level above human. Many members, they have physical spacecrafts, they're not the space aliens, even though they've been mixed up with the space aliens, but that's another subject, and I'm glad to talk about that. But but they don't tell everybody who they are. They just give us the human kingdom stages of understanding, because the object is for those that take it on, to whatever degree they take it on, is to actually graduate out of our humanness, out of our mammalian behavior. Because members of the next level don't have mammal vehicles. So they don't reproduce, they don't have sexuality, they don't have families, they don't have children, but they work in laboratories that can be as big as a planet. And inside of it, and we can't see them, they could be right here, standing right here. They could be members of the next level, literally standing right here, observing everything, and hopefully helping me. I don't know if they are. I want them to try to convey this immense message that's very simple, really. But we can't see them because our eyes are not designed to be able to see them that easily. And we have to actually raise our vibrations in order to even perceive that they exist. And they do that for a reason, because they made this school, this human kingdom, into a free will school. And every member of the human kingdom, and if they die, it doesn't really matter that much. I mean, it does matter, but we don't want to die, because this is our opportunity to grow when we're in a vehicle. But for all the ancestors that died, nothing's lost to the next level, because the spirit of a human being is like a plasma kind of object. And it's actually got the whole program of everything that happened to the human being from birth till death. Everything that happens is recorded in the genes, but it's also a genetic mental recording that exists when the vehicle goes to the grave. And we can't see it. We can't see them except certain circumstances. Sometimes people can get a view of discarnate spirits. Anyway, so they could be right among us, and their spacecraft could be sitting right on top of this building, not necessarily on it, but hovering over it, or they could even come down on it, and they could have a section. This whole room could be a part of their spacecraft, so that they can watch what's going on and observe and pay attention, and whatever they have to do, because they have tasks to do. They have computer systems. They can hear the thoughts of the people that want to grow, that want to thirst for understanding and new information, and what the heck are we here for, and why is everything falling apart in this world? It's because it's designed to work that way. That we're designed to get into the human kingdom, and we're designed to have the choice to get out of the humanness. And that's why a lot of people don't want to play the games. Maybe they want to make money and stuff, and that's natural, of course, to feed ourselves and everything, and have options. That's a good thing. But some people aren't driven to try to make money at any cost. And and some of the society would say, well, they're just not motivated, they're just not, they're not intelligent enough, and they have all these excuses for not trying to become a millionaire and all that stuff. But because the people that reject the society as the way it is, the status quo, and they start to see through a lot of the illusions that are put out as normal, those people end up also gravitating to, well, cults, you know. And a lot of those cults, in fact, all of them, except for Tiando's cult of cults, are all human behavior. You know, the leaders want to have sex with everybody. They want to have big bank accounts. They want to be able to live in different places over the world, and they want to have projects. You know, and the religions are full of that, right? And you know, they even promote that if you're not getting more wealthy, then you don't have a good relationship with God. Everything's upside down, and it's designed to be that way because it has to go in that direction. Because the next level, meanwhile, is providing all these thoughts and opportunities for people to reach beyond this condition and say, well, is that really true? Or is that, you know, that politician is telling me that? You know, can I believe anything they say? That media is telling me that? Can I believe anything they say? You know, and the evidence is that no, you can't really. I mean, you can believe something, of course, but in terms of policies and things, you know, they have their own agenda. And that's because this is another big picture. It's very hard to put this picture out in a way that I hope individuals can see it in a different light. And many of you may have seen this in this light for a long time. I don't know. I'm not judging anybody else. But my job right now is to try to share what I know from what Tiando provided me and that I experienced. It's not just a matter of them telling me things. It was never like that in the group. Because they could tell me things all day long, and if I hadn't grown to actually have experience and then recognize the depth of what they were talking about, which they didn't often talk about the depth, we had to kind of come into it ourselves. It's like you read a book. Let's say you read a science book, you know, and you've never been really involved in science. And it's like Greek at first, right? But then when you read it again, maybe after some time, then some things start to click. And it's the same thing, and it can click more and more and more and more. And it's the same thing with the reality of this next level above human. They give us things in stages, and there's a type of reincarnation that takes place to where people are learning, and their minds are saved as discarnates, or their souls are saved, and then they're brought back by the next level when the older members are coming back into the environment again to take human form, human bodies, take them over in order to talk to people one-on-one on terms of, because members of the next level, they don't have any gender, so they're genderless. So there's no he's or she's, or you know, I mean, and that's, I believe that's why we see the movement for gender equality that started in the mid-1800s in the United States. Even though there was movements before that, but that's all because the next level was preparing the human kingdom for the reality of the next level. So they don't have any sexuality, they don't have excrement, you know, they don't have to eat. They might take a pill that might last them for a long period of time to provide nutrition for the physical bodies that they wear like a suit of clothing for their tasks, whatever their tasks are. Or they may sit under a light, or there might be a light in the spacecraft that actually gives them enough energy to where they don't have any excrement, so they don't need any bowels or ways of getting rid of waste. So they don't have those systems in their bodies. And so to become a member of the next level, we have to outgrow. I mean, I say have to because they have requirements. They don't need anybody. They don't need any new members. And they're very selective. But they'll help anybody that wants to help for as long as they want help. And that's probably going to take place over several lifetimes. But they also don't limit people's growth. And like humans do, like humans, they won't want somebody to get too close to their job so that they could lose their job, so they keep people down a lot of times. But the next level doesn't do that. If you can take their job, they'd be happy because they would just get another job. There's lots of jobs. So, but anyway, so there's no sexuality in the next level. So, okay, but take somebody that's like gender neutral, non-binary, right? That's, I think, the current term for it. And it took me a while to actually register what that meant. I'm an old guy, so I don't have that program in my head, But I realized that non-binary is saying that you don't identify with either gender more than the other, I guess. And that's the next level, because they don't judge people by their gender, because they don't have gender. But even in the human kingdom, they don't judge us by the gender that we have or the lack of gender. And in the same with, so individuals that are outgrowing their gender consciousness are also showing the signs of, they're showing the signs of outgrowing their gender consciousness. But that doesn't mean that they're showing any signs of outgrowing their sexual consciousness, because the next level doesn't have sex. They don't need it, they don't want it, they don't care about it. It doesn't make any difference to them. They don't have the plumbing for it. They don't, like they say in Star Trek, that's one form of being aliens. They get off by rubbing their ears and stuff like that. They don't do any of that. They're more like the people in the movie Cocoon, to where they're physical and they can interact with humans in the physical condition, but they don't have a desire to, and they show their love for one another by their minds. But in the next level, it's a different society. Even though the members of the next level have a love for each other, their ultimate love is for the older member that was their parent, that brought their soul into the next level, gave them birth into the next level, above you, to where they became a young member of the next level. So that's the relationship. And that, if you think about that relationship, it's uncorruptible. Because like in the human kingdom, you have somebody that's a teacher that is teaching students, and if they like the way that student looks, or how much money they can bring to the group, or likes them in whatever ways they are, they can gravitate to them, and then all of a sudden then they're influenced by that relationship, and all kinds of very mixed up stuff happens. And you can see that in all these cult leaders that end up having relationships with all kinds of people, and they're actually, and even if they had some pretty sophisticated or higher thinking, they lose it. And they become corrupted, you can just put it that way, of what their ideals might have been when they started off. And because they start doing things for their students, they try to live for their students. They try to, please their students. But the next level older members aren't trying to please their students. They don't need any students. They don't even really want any students. But they want to please their older member. And their older member then gives them the assignment to work with students. So right from the beginning, they can't be influenced by students. I mean, they can be when they're in the human condition, because they have physical bodies that have all the programming of everybody else's physical body. And like Marshall Applewhite, who, I know as Doe, and you'll see some pictures of him up on the screen. He started off with the name Bo. They had other silly names before that, like Guinea and Pig, because they felt like they were being guinea pigs for their next level older members that were not in physical human bodies, and but that were working closely with them. But working with them didn't mean like they were just told stuff. They had to figure stuff out. It was like being undercover behind enemy lines, and the atmosphere is so full of discarnates and influences and thought forms, and the space alien souls. That's another subject again. But who are trying to actually enslave humans, and they do. They've enslaved the human kingdom for the most part, but we are all potentially in degrees of coming out of that enslavement. And that's a life, that's a life effort. That's not something that just happens. You have to have experiences in the human kingdom in order to recognize the things that you don't want to repeat. Like, for instance, let's say you get into a substance addiction. It's very hard sometimes to get out of that substance addiction, but it'll kill you. And it'll make you so unclear about everything in the world that's happening, and to you and relationships with other people, that you won't have any potential to grow your next level mind, to pull that next level understanding into your container. The container is the soul container. It only holds next level mind. And it's actually a physical plasma kind of physicality that is like a chip. In other words, like a computer chip. And it's got programs in it. And like a program is, one of the programs is recognition that the next level is real. That's the reality. There are creators that designed this place. And the humans and the animals and the plant life and the mineral kingdom, all those were kingdom levels of growth in evolution, and they have a lot of automatic evolution that they do, and there's a type of mind evolution that happens as well. And the mind evolution requires choices, and even the animal kingdom has a certain amount of mind evolution. When they're brought into the master's house, the humans, in some way or form, shape or form, and they learn to live with the humans, to the humans' degrees of what the humans require. In other words, the dog comes into the house. If the dog's pooping in the house, most masters aren't going to want that to happen. So they would train the dog for that not to happen. If they accept the training, then that's evolving. That dog is evolving to be a higher form of life in its mind. And that mind, that spirit of that animal, and it's not just a dog, but it could be a horse or a cat, or I don't know what the limits are to what kind of domesticated animal can be of service to the human kingdom. Like a seeing eye dog is providing a really good service to the human kingdom. So they're advancing. That mind is advancing, and when that mind has the chance that the next level knows how to provide, that mind can move into like a newborn baby in a family. And you'll find that the baby in that family really loves dogs. Of course, even if they didn't have a dog growing up, they might just want a dog their whole life. They might want to have a dog. And because that spirit was hanging around that family unit. I'm not saying that's the only reason that happens, because I'm not capable, and T and Doe are very much like this. They didn't try to cover for every little thing, all the exceptions that might exist. They knew that there were a lot of things that happened that we don't have any idea are happening. But the next level individuals, they know how the garden grows. They know how spirits grow. They know how they can move people up And they did this to the entire human kingdom through the development of technology, to where all of a sudden the things that were superstitious about the past, like, is there anything that exists right here? Is there anything here? No, I don't see anything. But we know that it's filled with bacteria and viruses and all kinds of particles, dust and all kinds of stuff. But we wouldn't have known that if the next level didn't give us the ability to pull in that mind, that understanding, so that the people that were pursuing that would develop tools to be able to see those things with microscopes and telescopes and blah, 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 right? So the next level, they are so detailed. People say that, well, looks like God left, right? Created this place and then he just left because it's gone to hell, it's gone to pot. Not a literal pot, because, that pot's just another option. But they didn't. They do leave physically from their incarnate presence. And their incarnate presence is a very big presence. Their minds are very powerful. They can move things with their minds. They can travel with their minds. They can see distances with their minds, over mountains and things. I don't know what the limits are to them, but they can perceive all kinds of things, and we can grow to be that way. And it's not a boring place. It's not like the religious people say, it's floating on a cloud somewhere, with a baby body and wings, and you're flapping around. And not that there couldn't be human species of some sort that could have wings. That's very possible. But in the past, or even currently, that we just don't. Maybe they can change their vibration so we can't see them. I don't know exactly, because that actually happened when I was in the group. We were living in Texas at the time, and there was a report that came over that somebody said that they saw a winged human, like the Bigfoot kind of thing, right? And even though they didn't disqualify it and say that's impossible, they said there's a lot of things happening on this planet that we don't know about, because Next Level has a lot of departments dealing with trying to upgrade everything. They want the physical bodies that we have to be extremely healthy so that we have total clarity of mind. So when we make choices, we're not making them because of some emotional abuse that we suffered when we were growing up, things like that. And so they want us to have good nutrition. A lot of the problems that we have in society is because we have very poor nutrition. And our brains just don't function. That's why, I'm not apart from anybody in this regard. I left the group and I started to experience things that I never knew about from leaving the group. And one of them was that, I needed the same thing. I wanted to have the same things everybody else had. I want to have my coffee in the morning so I feel like I'm a little bit alert, and I get a headache if I don't, But, it's good to not be addicted to all those things. But, like the Buddha was talking about, which might have been a next level experiment, but some of the characteristics of the Buddha, one of the Buddhas, like the first Buddha, Gautama Buddha, was to overcome the human passions and even attachment to the family units, because the real family unit is Next Level members. That's the ultimate family unit. It doesn't mean that we need to leave everything behind to become a member of the Next Level, but there is a time for that. When the older members are incarnate and they start talking in the public, and you hear them talking and you say, wow, what do I have to do? I want to learn from you. And they say, well, if you want to learn from us, then you're going to have to leave everything behind. And you're going to have to stop thinking about the past, and you're going to have to take on our program 100%. Because if you're not willing to do that, we don't want you as a student. because we don't really need anybody. In fact, you're a bit of an inconvenience to us because it's difficult to be a cult leader. You know, it's like in that Netflix show that I was a little bit a part of, you know, it was How to Become a Cult Leader, I think it was. And it's like, are they kidding? They don't really think that there's a formula to become a cult leader. Do you know how hard it is to become a cult leader? Do you think anybody thinks ahead and says, well, they're cult leader? Well, actually, there are people that think that way. I know some on the internet, you know, that my partner Kathy turned me on to. And but anybody with I don't want to put people down that want to do that, but it's like getting on a plane that you know is going to run out of gas. You know, it's going to crash. It can't go anywhere else. And that's what's happened with all these cults. And because of that, cults, well, because of T&O, cults is a big thing. You know, that everybody's talking about. Everybody's a cult now. You know, the global warming people are a cult. And the Trump people are a cult. The Biden people are a cult. And you know, go down the line, the people that believe that, you know, you can put all these chemicals in your body and hope that it's going to make you not get certain viruses and stuff and kill you. There's a certain cultish nature to them as well. You know, they want you to stick to their program and only their program to heal your body. You know, and if you venture off of that, then we're going to censor you. And we're going to get rid of the people that are talking about using vitamin C. You know, as if it's some terrible formula for getting rid of a virus. You know, when it's been around for a long time, it's very effective against a lot of viruses. So, you know, so that one has its own cultish behavior. You know, a cult really is a subculture. That's what Doe said it was. It's a culture that's developing, and the mainstream culture hates it because it goes against the mainstream culture. You know, in this country, and a lot of countries, there's the cult of the military. Now, I'm not putting down people that are in the military, okay? That's just another option of things in the human kingdom. And, you know, but people get, in a sense, entrapped into it, sometimes for really good reasons. They want to protect their families, and, you know, they have an ideal to that. But then when they experience being overseas, and they watch people and children and being killed and pulled out of their homes, and like what's happening in Gaza now, and all places, all in Ukraine, and you know, all over the world. Actually, Haiti is having big time problems now, and other places too that we don't hear about too much. But when they experience that, and sometimes they have to deal with it. They think they have to deal with it because the alternatives are too dire for them. But then when they come back to society and they see that everybody's kind of like normal, you know, and what do? They freak out. They have tremendous PTSD, and like, you know, the numbers are like 20-something people a day kill themselves because of their military service, because they can't get those thoughts out of their heads. They go to sleep and they have nightmares, and they just hate it. And I know the facts of this, even though I didn't go to war because I was going to be a draft dodger in 1971. When I was going to be drafted, I didn't have to. I was going to go to Canada. I was planning on it, and then I got a high lottery number, and I didn't have to go to the draft, so I moved to Canada anyway. And then I got thrown out of Canada because I wasn't there legally. I was living there and working. But, so I was an illegal alien in Canada. But the problem is that people get, well, they can't adjust. And so they get into substances, they become homeless. Not that homelessness is a terrible thing. It's not necessarily. But substances can be pretty problematic. I think everybody with their right mind knows that. And, but they're trying to reach for help, and then, so they have all these groups trying to help them adjust to society. And maybe it's successful, and good, power to them if they can actually adjust and continue to have lesson opportunities and grow. So, but see, that's considered like normal. And is that not a cult? I mean, to where they're gonna give you a rifle and say, go over there, and you're a sharpshooter now, and you've got to train your sights on that person over there because they're a terrorist, and you got to shoot them in the head. You got to get a score, you know? And how can you live with that? And what I was talking about was my own personal experience, because I grew up with my father, my dad, my human kingdom dad, was in World War II, and he was in both theaters. They call them theaters, you know, like it's a big game, you know, and like a big art show. But and he would have nightmares often, and he'd be sitting on the side of the bed, like holding on and shaking, and I watched him, you know, I didn't see that often, but I saw it enough to where it made an impression on him. It was because of his war experience, and he was driving tanks, and he was in a truck, and an ammo truck. He was driving around the Alps, and they had to have blackouts, and so he had to drive with trucks that the brakes were bad. It was full of ammunition, and he was driving on these dirt roads on the side of the mountain, and he had to turn the lights off so that the enemy wouldn't see him and shoot missiles at him and stuff. And so he was freaked out by the war. And I think I got that in my genes. So what I knew right away when they were talking about Vietnam, I said, this is a bunch of baloney. I'm not going across to Vietnam to kill people and be killed. I was actually more concerned with myself being killed. I didn't want to be killed. But I also didn't want to kill anyone. And so I would have left, whatever it would have taken, I would have not gone to that war. I wouldn't have cared if I was put in jail. And anyway, so that's a cult to me, the military. And yet it's an acceptable cult. It's actually part of the culture of the mainstream human kingdom. And if you don't do it in some countries, then you're put in jail, like Israel. You have to go to jail for a certain amount of time. I heard somebody testify to, who was a draft resistor in Israel for this Gaza war. Anyway, I got way off the track, and I didn't intend to actually say all this.
I was going to see, because this is a Q&A, of course, so I'm sure a lot of people have questions. Is there anybody that would like to start off with any questions? You can raise your hand and I'll find you. All right, well, one question that, what was that? Oh, somebody got one?
Yeah, that's two people.
Yeah, if you want to stand up, or
sure.
I can,
Hi, Sawyer. I've been spending the last month just learning about Heaven's Gate and all of what happened, and I hope I'm asking this question correctly, but so if when the class graduated with T and Do in '98, they were all able to go to the next level with Do. That's correct. So
Yeah.
because you were not with the class when they graduated, do you believe that when this vehicle dies, for lack of a better term, do you feel that you'll go to the next level at this point, or that you'll be reincarnated here?
Well, I don't pretend to know.
Okay.
Because I can't second guess my older member Do. I know some of the options. Like, for instance, the option for anybody that shows the next level that they're even just curious about it, the whole story and everything, And the next level can give that individual a little chip. Well, what you call in the old terminology a soul. Okay, a container that enables them to grow more in that direction. Okay, so now just getting that chip, what that gives somebody is the ability to grow in a more defined way, a more specific way that the next level recognizes as a potential member of the next level sometime in the future. But they don't know how long that's going to take for that soul to have a physical vehicle that chip is given to that physical vehicle, that soul, that they have at the time, right? But they may have circumstances, let's say they get in a car accident and they die. The vehicle dies. The soul doesn't die. The next level then can take that soul and store it for a future opportunity, to bring it back so that it can, when there's another opportunity to grow further in a human type equivalent condition, then that soul will have the opportunity to find a human vehicle that it can actually interface with and take over, literally, like a body snatcher, you know. But and so, though he would call that process of being saved, using that Christian terminology, you know, that's been distorted, to think that everybody is going to be saved if they just call upon some name of some savior or something, and without doing all the things that he said to do. And anyway, but he said that they would be saved on ice, but he wasn't talking about literal ice. And so that might be one of the things that happens to this soul that's with this vehicle. That maybe that soul gets saved on ice. I don't know exactly, because the soul that was with this vehicle when I was in the group might be a different soul than is with this vehicle now. Because the next level also, when they bring souls back, they choose human vehicles that are going to present the opportunities for that soul to learn how to gain strength by getting out of the humanness that that vehicle got into, which we all get into things. But each soul has its own a formula of the things that are weaknesses and strengths. And so they want to bring a soul back so that it can interface with a vehicle that's going to provide them with the lessons that's going to help build their weaknesses into strengths. And so they choose a number of vehicles a lot of times. Like the saying from the records, many are chosen, but only a few, no. Many are gathered, but few are chosen. I think something like that. Yes, right, thank you.
And actually, would you like to invite our other guests?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So
Yeah, you don't have to be sitting down there. But, all right.
You got to see.
I have to ask also, yes.
Well, chime in anytime you want, you know, and correct me if I'm saying anything that you think is off track. Thank you. I'll agree.
Well, that was a good question. Are there any other questions?
Right, so I don't know, but there's other options. But, you know, I don't know. You know, just to round it out a little tiny bit, I know I talk a lot about every question, but I can't help it. You know, if I don't answer a question as thoroughly as you want, you can always get in touch with me outside this meeting. And even after the meeting, I'll be hanging around for a while. So, but another option is that I don't know that because I flunked out of that graduation class, which I did. I flunked out of it. I didn't succeed in what I was trying to accomplish by graduating. And I've talked about that in great detail on my blog, sawyerhg.wordpress.com. And it's you can search for the document called Sawyer's story on that blog, and you'll see what was the beginning of an autobiography that talks about the details of my departure. Anyway, so nobody knows, nobody can judge anybody else. I mean, we can judge behavior. We can measure behavior. We can see somebody acting in a certain way, and we can say, we don't want that behavior. We don't want to do those kind of things. And that's how we choose to build our own minds, right? So even though I had lessons to learn in the classroom, it's actually apparent to me right now, and actually in the last couple of weeks, it became even more apparent to me. And I could be wrong the way I'm thinking about this, because Doe's not standing here in a vehicle to tell me that I'm wrong about this. But sometimes he does give me, I'm not saying he's standing here, but sometimes he does give me indications of where I might be wrong about things I talk about. In fact, that's happened a lot of times. I don't know that it's him or someone that's working for him that's on a spacecraft, and they can tune into the radio waves that our minds put out when we're having thoughts and things like that. And because it's a radio band that humans weren't given the ability to actually translate and understand and recognize exists. And if next level doesn't give humans the ability to do something, they're not going to do it. They're not going to learn to do it. So I don't know that I might have been doing good, but I wasn't learning all the lessons I needed to learn. And so T put me to the test, and that's a long story, but it's in that document, and gave me more than I could handle. Well, no, that's not right. So I just got corrected, I feel like. They never give you more than you can handle. But sometimes it takes a lot of strength to pull on their minds and accept their help. Because Doe offered me help before I left. So I could have taken his help and stayed in the group, and maybe I would have learned what I needed to learn. Because the reason that we're learning things, we have things to learn, is so that we can gain strength of mind. That's the reason. Because in order to actually, it's a practical reason. In order to actually manipulate a dense physical vehicle, body, grown by the next level, like on a vine, like a plant, to adulthood, for a soul to then take over and be the pilot of for certain types of tasks, for however long, they have to have a certain amount of strength. Their willpower has to be strong enough to where they have to be in control of their body completely. It's just the same way that a human that becomes an Olympic athlete has to really learn how to control their body. And if they don't learn how to control that body in the way, and there's a lot of examples of this in the human kingdom, if they don't learn the ways of using the brain, using the body, and its limits, and all the characteristics of it, then they're not developing strength in that regard. And so it's the same with the next level grown vehicle. There's certain facilities they have, like they can change their vibrations so that a human couldn't see them, but they can still be very physical. And if we reached out our hand thinking that we might touch them, well, they'd be too fast. They'd get out of our way, if they were that close to us. But, or if they might let us touch them, I don't know what we would feel. Maybe it would feel like the wind or something, because I don't know what the density of that body is at that point. But that's one of the features of, and the individual that was called Jesus 2,000 years ago was a member of the next level. It was actually the same soul that was Doe. He was the same soul that was Adam and Enoch and Moses and Elijah and then Doe. Completing the task that he started. And he started it by failing, by flunking out of the first lesson program of not following instructions from his older member. And the older member in that context was T, his older member that brought him into the next level before this planet even existed, I think. I'm not perfectly sure that the planet didn't exist, but it might have been on a different planet. I'm not sure about that.
All right, let's want to get on to the next question. You're welcome. So yes,
Okay,
what's the question?
so this is more about like philosophy and beliefs. So I hear you mentioning like your soul and things like that. Did y'all have any beliefs that would like explain like paranormal stuff, like ghosts?
That's
Like, did that ever factor into the ideology at all?
Absolutely, yes, definitely. There's no question about it. In fact, in 1975, I already, before I even heard about Tiando, I thought that spirits were real. I thought there was some reality to ghosts. I remember I was hitchhiking around California somewhere, and I got picked up by this guy, and he showed me this picture of his army platoon. He said, the people in the picture that are dead, their pictures faded, their faces. And I looked at that and go, well, okay, if you say so. I didn't know. But I thought it was possible, but, I could try to come up with the technical reason why that might be the case. And it might be related to himself, his own perceptions and things. But also that those discarnates could actually be influencing him to see that individual in a certain way. Anyway, but yes, so what Tiando said right from the beginning, that when a human vehicle dies, and I think animal vehicles also are in this circumstance, the spirit of that vehicle, which is, the word spirit's not a really good word anymore, because it's been so, look, we talk about alcohol as spirits, right? Doesn't make any sense, except maybe people see pink elephants, I don't know if there were ever pink elephants in a previous civilization, maybe that's what they're seeing, But actual Tiando's terminology, they were always trying to get rid of the religious terminology because it wasn't accurate. That's the reason. It just wasn't accurate anymore. And they used the word mind. And if you actually look up in the Greek, where the word spirit is used in, like, the New Testament, for instance, you'll see that it's the word pneuma, and you'll see that mind is part of that definition, or breath. But breath is also associated with mind, because when we talk, we're projecting our mind through that breath, in that those vibrations of the speech. But it's actually our thoughts that are with that's going out there in two dimensions, I guess. Maybe more than that. I don't know about the other dimensions. But so when a human vehicle dies, well, let's talk about a little bit where that mind comes from. It comes from the ancestors. Like if you got ancestors that were in the war and they had terrible experiences in the war, then they stay around. They generally stay around their family units when they die, and they influence people. Now, sometimes they can be like guardian angels, or they can help people, and sometimes they can hinder people too. Let's say you killed somebody, heaven forbid, that you were in that circumstance, and that spirit from that individual may continue to haunt you for the rest of your life, because of what you did, and basically you'd be tormented by that image, and you wouldn't know how to get rid of it necessarily. There are ways of getting rid of it, but it takes a lot of strength of mind, blocking it out. So Tiando taught that human bodies were actually time-shared computer systems. The brain and the whole body, okay? And that all the dead humans, well, not all of them at once, but the ones that were hanging around that body from birth or from adolescence or from whenever, you know, when they were in society and they got jobs and they made choices that subjected them to other discarnates, not necessarily in their families. And those discarnates, if they could play out their program, because they're like, the discarnates are like programs. They're like spiritual structures that are programmatically geared to do all the things and think all the ways that they thought when they were in that human body. And so when they're dead, I'm not saying this happens to all of them, but probably most of them hang around the same people they hung around with before they died. And they try to get those people to do the same kind of things that they like to do. And they get a buzz off of it. And they even help people. And so, like, Doe brought up the example of like the president. You know, to be a good president, well, maybe not anymore, but you have to be able to speak well, you know, and have good diction and, you know, and clarity of mind. Of course, you know, you don't need that anymore, right? But, you know, because everybody's a puppet now, for the most part. But I'd like to go to school and stuff, and you take classes, and you learn all these things. All during that, like, let's say you become a good musician, you know. There's musicians that died that want to play music through you. And so they go to you, and they actually provide you with more energy and more even desire to do it, and do it better and better, and, you know, become successful, make money, you know, whatever it is. And that's with everything in life. And when somebody's like schizophrenic to where they got two different personalities, they're actually, it's like two different spirits, they're not actually agreeing to timeshare at the same time. I mean, they're trying to take over completely instead of waiting their turn. You know, and like, you know, like there's a time when I'm going to play music an hour a day, or I'm going to do my job in the orchestra, and then I'm going to go home, and then I like to go on the computer and do stuff with the computer, or I like to play softball, you know, in the softball league, and so then they draw another influence that likes to play softball, and they come into their body and they have fun doing that, you know. It makes us feel like, you know, in a sense, it makes you feel like, oh God, I'm nothing, you know, just. But no, we're something, because we're building our minds on everything we choose to do. So then when we die, we're going to want to influence somebody to do those same things. And even the ways of thinking is part of that.
That's a cool, that was a neat question. That,
I just thought about it.
yeah.
Yeah, I did not.
Yeah, there's, you know, ghosts, you know, so I've seen some things, okay? So I do have personal experience, but I didn't have that experience before I was in the classroom or during the classroom. But after I left the classroom, there was a couple months, I don't know if it was longer than that, where I saw a number of things that blew my mind while I was awake. And I talk about them in that same Sawyer story at WordPress.com.
Okay, are we ready for the next question? Okay, we have a lot of questions, so
All right.
I'll go to you first.
Is there a chance that you didn't actually flunk out and you're sort of meant to be here to spread the word and sort of teach others about this?
Well, I get to ask that quite a bit. No. However, the next level doesn't throw anybody away. And they take advantage of all those that want to serve. And I want to serve. But it wasn't easy for me to come back to serving, because I got into I left the classroom, and right away I went out and I rented a flute, and I bought these drums actually, and I was living in Arizona, and I got a job, and I started, I was I wanted to I just wanted to live and do the things I wanted to do that I wasn't doing in the classroom. I didn't miss those things when I was in the classroom. Not at all. No, I didn't miss playing the flute or the drums or the harmonica or anything like that, even though I started those things before the classroom. But when I left, then I did that. And I ended up having a partner, and we had a child together, and we raised that child in New York and Vermont. And she's still alive, and she's living in the house that I still own in Vermont and trying to sell. And I don't want to sell it in some way because she's living there, but that's not my choice actually, because my ex wants to sell it. But anyway, so and then when they left in 1997, and I saw that the media didn't know what was going on with the story. And I knew that I knew exactly what was going on. Because we even talked about leaving the way that they did in specific, about drinking like a strong barbiturate for the most gentle way of leaving the body. They preferred to not leave the body. And they preferred to walk on the spacecraft with their body. But they didn't want to just wait around until like each one of them died from disease or from a car accident or by somebody not liking them, like a murder or something, for whatever reason. And Doe felt like it was time to leave. And so he started talking about that in 1994, even though we had inklings of it way back in 1986. But it never became talked about as an option until August of '94. And then a number of times talked about, and then they'll put it on hold completely because he wasn't sure that it was the right way to go. But they kept on thinking that it might be. And he had all kinds of plans. Anyway, I'm getting off the track, but I think this is all pertinent to the whole conversation anyway. So,
Do you want to move on to the next question? Or?
so I don't know, do you think I answered that? Okay.
Okay. You got a question?
Yeah, so I wanted,
No.
Well, wait a minute, I know what it was. I began to have dreams because I went public in 1997. I went to New York City and I was on 60 Minutes and Larry King Live over a couple of weekends, and Geraldo Show and a bunch of news shows and the internet and MSNBC, and I was in the studios and all those places and radio things, and I was just telling what I knew, but I wasn't thinking that I was part of the group. I wasn't, and I really was having a difficulty actually doing that because my partner was pregnant at the time, was living upstate New York, and I didn't want to be seen as a cult member, and I didn't want to have paparazzi on my doorstep, say, oh, the cult member lives here, blah, blah, blah. And so I was afraid, so I went to a payphone, they still existed in those days, and I called Time Magazine, I called Newsweek, and I told them that I had experience, and so they started interviews. So anyway, but then after that, I kind of dropped it completely, and I started having dreams with Doe, dreams with certain students that are pictured in this slideshow, and there seemed to be escalating towards something. I was having premonitions, I was seeing things, I was asking for signs, I was seeing streaks in the sky when I would ask for it, and things were happening, and finally I just said to myself, Doe, if there's any way I can be service, I want to be of service again, but please, I don't feel like I can leave my daughter behind, because she was a couple of years old at that point. And because I thought I had to give my all, like I had to do when he was present. And I feel like I got an answer back, which I can't prove, but I think I can recognize his voice to some degree, his mind, the way that he thinks. In not, you can't count on that. I can't count on that. And so I don't try to come up with things. I don't, you know, it doesn't work that way for the next level. It works that way in the human kingdom. With the space aliens, and they take over people, you know, and they become channelers and all different things happening with the spirit world and the space aliens. But that's not the way the next level works. They don't take people over. They don't manipulate anybody. And so he started giving me these dreams and experiences until I asked for that. And then after that, I felt like I wanted to be of service again. And I got all kinds of opportunities. Just seemed to, you know, ideas came to my mind. And the whole time, though, I was talking about them as a positive. And my relatives of this vehicle thought I was, you know, they thought they were meeting me for the first time. And they would say to me, like I went to a wedding, and they said to me, one relative said, "How'd you get out?" I said, "Well, it wasn't hard to get out. I just told Doe I was ready to leave." And he gave me a plane ticket of $600 and said, tried to tell the other students not to try to talk me out of it. Because I know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. But he said I did. Because I did, to some degree. I needed a different experience. And so it's a long story. All my stories are kind of long because, you know, there really aren't any nutshells, even though the media puts them all into nutshells.
Sarah's got a lot to say. All right, so what was your question?
Okay, so I assume that you attended the reunion in 1998?
The reunion at Montana?
No, in 1998. There was a reunion of the leftovers, I guess.
In Montana.
Was it in Montana?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't go there.
You didn't?
No.
But did you?
That was
you
at
heard about
Leanne's
it?
place.
Did you hear about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
She invited me to go. I didn't want to go. I had responsibilities. I had a child, and I had a job. I couldn't leave it. I didn't have any money, really.
Well, then I assume that you heard of Terry Nettles, T's daughter.
Yes, yes. I've spoken to Terry.
She brought with her these letters that
Yes.
he sent to her every single month.
Yeah, well, for a while.
And a lot of the members, or former members, depending on how they identify, were quite upset at the fact that she broke that rule.
You mean the
she-
ones that were the dropouts?
Correct. They were upset that she
Right.
was communicating with her daughter when we were supposed to essentially drop all communication with the outside world. And so I was just wondering how you grappled with that.
It was not a big deal at all to me.
Why is that?
Because she was the teacher. She was like the chemistry teacher, and she was giving us the ways of doing the experiment. And if we didn't want to do it that way, then we could leave. Okay, now, does the teacher have to do the experiment the exact same way they do the students' experiment? No, they don't have to. They may know 100 ways of doing that same experiment to come up with the same results. But they don't have to do that experiment that way.
But considering the fact that when you left,
But also, there's more to it than that.
okay,
And also, I don't know that all those former students all felt the same way about that, about Terry's letters. Because Flex Odie and Abel Odie, who I believe at least Flex Odie was over there at that meeting, because I visited with Flex Odie before that happened in 1995. She maintained her belief in Tiandone. And it was a long story with her, but well, maybe there's nothing more to say on that. I know.
Well, did you have anything to
No,
say?
yeah, I'm sorry. Here's what it is.
I just want to add something.
Sure. Yeah, please do. Do you want to, you have a whole seat right all to yourself.
Well, while he's coming up here, let me just say that the reason that T was sending letters to Terry was because she cared about Terry. And she invited Terry to actually join the group. But she told Terry that if she joined the group, she wouldn't be treated any differently than all the other students. And Terry wasn't for that. She didn't want, because Terry was thinking of T as her mother. But when T woke up to the task that T did, that's an incarnation. That's actually when a portion of T's soul came into that body in a bigger way in the early 1970s and took over that body and helped wake up Doe, and then they helped each other wake up together, which I was just listening to a tape that Doe made in 1993 while I was present. That reminded me of that. And at that point, she was no longer the mother of, her body was, yes, biologically, the one that produced the baby that was named Terry. But the human body isn't only the biology and even the mind. The soul is a real entity. It's a real living organism. And it can be a very sophisticated being. And so when she came into that, she knew that she needed to leave everything behind. Because that's the formula. That's always the formula when you're actually at the stage of graduation. And but that doesn't mean that she and Doe didn't care about Terry a lot. And Doe even said that in the audio tape that he made for Terry, that maybe you've heard. And he was totally honest about that. You were hearing Doe being totally honest, because he was always totally honest. He didn't have any reason to lie about anything. What he was talking about the whole time was considered to be totally crazy. And they didn't even realize that at first, that people would think that they were totally crazy. You know, I mean, that's it's a real battle of mind there to actually understand that. But, so, and there were individuals that were also communicating with their families when they wanted to. In fact, I talked to one whose name was Stewart, and he never became an Odie. You know, everybody has the Odie names that were given in about 1977 or 8. And so she was trying to relieve the anxiety that Terry felt at the absence of her vehicle's mother. Because that anxiety is like a nagging, I don't mean to say that Terry was nagged, I'm not trying to say that, but it's like a pull. And relationships of mother-daughter, father-daughter, brother, you know, sister, sons, you know, whatever the relationships in families are real relationships. They have a root system. We just can't see the root system. It's a very real root system. You can have somebody that their child dies halfway across the globe, and they feel it. The mother feels it, knows that something terrible has happened. And they might not know where exactly, but they may, you know. And it doesn't mean it happens all the time, but I actually experienced that myself when my dad died. But I experienced it as a premonition before he died, while I was in the classroom. But, so I know that's a real reality of that connection. And so what happened was in 1985, I think it was. It might have been late 84. T and Doe sent us all back to visit our families if we wanted to. They actually encouraged us to do it. If we had anybody that cared about us. Because what they said was they wanted to calm down anxiety about us. Because we get those thoughts bombard us. They say, you know, come back, we love you, we want you, come to the wedding of this person and come to, you know, this is happening, you're missing all this. What are you doing with that cult? You know, that's a terrible thing, you know. And all that becomes a distraction because we were trying to become new creatures, new beings. That we were cutting off the past, not because we were ashamed of the past. We weren't ashamed of anything, I don't think. I mean, maybe some of us were, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, we all can make mistakes and things that we feel like we could do better. But, so Well, Doe said after she left her vehicle, she died, that was, diagnosed with liver cancer, that she didn't want to heal the vehicle. They actually looked for a doctor that wasn't going to try to keep her alive at any cost. And the doctor was like flabbergasted about that. That, they were saying, what do you mean? I'm not going to try to keep her alive. That's my job. That's what I do. And he said, no, because she lost her eye 2 years before that. And she didn't tell Terry about that. She didn't write a letter to Terry telling her, so Doe was probably completely honest. I believe he was completely honest when he said that T told him not to tell Terry that she was dying. Why? Because she didn't want Terry to interfere with the group. Because if they just started an investigation, they could put Doe in jail. They could trump up the charges. But that, because they had her vehicle cremated, and they put the ashes in White Rock Lake. Okay, and that was T's request to be cremated, according to Doe and Livoni and Jano, who are the witnesses to that same discussion that we had in the classroom about that. So this stuff that's, that T was a hypocrite is complete fabrication. There was no hypocrisy.
She's a hypocrite. I'm just saying that maybe to be,
No, but that's what Terry said.
but to be a leader that people can really embody themselves. Like, wouldn't you want to set an example that you want your followers to follow?
And she did. She left Terry behind. She left her other 3 kids behind. And she didn't have any relationships with her 2 kids that were autistic because they were in the home. And the son, Joey, she asked Terry to give him some of the money, Joey some of the money, so that she sent the money so that she'd be helped in the world. And she said to him, Terry said, try to live by the laws of the land. She didn't want Terry to be going down some road that was going to, lead to some terrible circumstance, for her life. She wanted Terry to thrive. She was actually showing love to Terry. And she was showing, you won't find a better leader than T. A better example, you won't. Mark my words. And Doe as well. They are beyond anything that anybody's ever seen or heard about. I can prove that. And you can, I'm not talking to you directly, but I'm just saying, because I've been hit with this question many times. And, so it's not like it's an unusual thing. And actually...
I mean no offense by it.
No, I'm not taking offense by it. It's a legitimate question because it's brought up in the media and several different accounts, and I recognize it. But there's over 1,000 audio tapes of the internal meetings of T and Doe with the classroom, the group of students that were with them, from 1982 on. We don't have any tapes before 1982. That I'm aware of. And if you listen to those tapes, or some of them, I don't know how many it would take to listen to them, you will see how darn right dedicated T and Doe were to that teaching position, and how much they cared about the students, although they weren't like caring about the students in such a way that was like, patting them on the back all the time. And, they were in a school. They were saying, this isn't behavior that you will have in the next level laboratory. You're not going to be jealous of one another. You're not going to be envious of one another. You're not going to be angry with one another. You're not going to be wanting to have sex with each other. You're not going to want to have favoritism with one another. You're all going to be wanting to be parts of the spokes of the wheel, to where all those spokes are valuable spokes, and they don't have to be told that. They know that they are, because they know their tasks, and they know what they're doing with the human kingdom, and how they're helping many humans in many circumstances on this planet. That, people call them angels and whatever, that's a reality. Members of the next level stay very close to hospitals when people are losing their vehicles to help them, some of them, move into the next world. Next world meaning the discarnate world, the spirit world. You know, because some of them are shocked when they get there because it's nothing like they thought it was going to be. But they're trying to help them adjust to it. I guess because maybe that spirit is worth saving for future opportunity. You know, but because the next level cares so much about us. That's why they say, you know, God loves everybody. That's because God gives us all the opportunity. But that doesn't mean that God loves all our behaviors. They don't. Like, for instance, they hate, well, I shouldn't say hate, because that's not the word they'll use, but they would never have humans make weapons to kill other humans with. They wouldn't make them. That's not their choice for humans. But they let humans make that choice because they let humans become as rotten as they want to become. Or as good as they want to become.
Did your question get answered?
But I think one already had something to say though.
Yeah, so we'll do a quick intermission, just at 9. But there's 15 minutes, so if one, you want to say anything?
What? Okay.
Like so much.
Yeah. Maybe this one will be better.
That's the popular one.
Well, you can get closer to your mouth too. We didn't plan on me dominating this thing in the beginning.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I think language is English, so I don't speak as well as you guys. The real reason God sent messengers, the real reason, the sense of it, is give you life. God is life, not death. He doesn't want you to experience death. He wants to be His life. It's not death. The evil forces are death. God is truth. Truth in the real sense. That's a word that is widely used and misused actually. And God is no lie, it's not misinformation. He shows how sins are in the real sense. How everything works and how everything has to be according to their law, His law. And God is truth. God wants you to know, and God is freedom. The evil forces want you to be a slave, to be attached to things that destroy you, that make you a slave. You have no control over yourself. So God is life, God is truth, and God is freedom. Those three. But the evil forces, and Satan is the leader, who is a real individual, is an alien who fell, fallen angel. He is death, lies, and slavery. And simple thing. So when he sent you a message, in this case there were two messengers. The word was stronger, it was harder than when Jesus Christ came. So that therefore they sent two individuals. They sent that who was the reincarnation of Jesus Christ as unbelievable as a man sin, who is his father. He was his father. Only with the enough mind to teach the humans. They didn't came with their mind that they had over there. It was a sign of it. It was a sign that they only have enough mind to be able to take all this individual graft to their mind and take them to the next level. But not with the mind that came from them, because the body wasn't capable of carrying that kind of mind. It's too primitive, the human body. So it might seem unbelievable, but it's the truth. Because the higher form of knowledge that we can get is because it's been revealed to you. It's the highest. That's my experience, my humble experience. When you want something really badly want and ask God to help you, and even all these interference, all this spirit world trying to interfere with your desires, so you fell prey of them. When you really ask God, He will reveal to you. It's not something that you believe. It's not something that you read in a book, sounds good to you, sounds nice. Or it's something that you know is true. It's a knowing. You know that you know, but you don't know how you know it, but you know it. So God revealed you information if you are 100% sincere. That's the requirement. It's under His terms, not on your terms. And so when somebody is admiring the world, whoever, there are different, I see Elon Musk, I see the owner of Amazon, and so on and so forth, such scientists and so on, they are mortals. Every one of them are mortal. What good for Steve Jobs, who founded Apple, when he was dying of pancreatic cancer, his most wishful thing was to be alive. He would give up everything he had created. Because all that he did, he couldn't escape from death. So God wants to give you life, but you have to earn it. You have to be able to gain complete control of yourself, get rid of these spirits that grab in your energy field, which are aura. It's called aura, whatever you can call it. They are there. That's why you don't have control of your thoughts. Sometimes you have thoughts that are not yours. Somebody, some spirit put it in you. The way I think that, you are not thinking. It's a spirit implanting in you to make you think that way. So you are a switch, good and evil. Always are good and evil. Yeah. So you have to get rid of all this spirit because you graft to the mind, you graft to life. That life they are the source that bring them to you. And you are filled with the mind of the next level. The mind that comes from the chief. It's like a chain. It's like energy, like electricity comes from a cable. They are the cable, so to speak. Until you are filled with it. You are being revealed so much information that is obvious to you. It's not that you believe. No, it's not no belief whatsoever. You know it. It's inside you. Nobody can take it away from you. And once you have it, it belongs to you. Nobody can take it ever from you because it was given to you. You earn it. You earn it. And then once you are filled enough with this next level of mind, you are becoming mortal. You are in a body that is too primitive to what you have become. It's like a dog when he grows enough to please his owner until they say, this dog looks like he's human. Well, that dog is ready to be born into a human body in a primitive way, in a sort of jungle or anyway. So yeah, it's the same for a human. Once you are grown all these attachments that grab you to this planet in which all these spirits somehow control you because you don't have enough mind for the next level, then you are human. But once you have enough mind, you have to get out of here. You don't belong to planet Earth. Planet Earth is usually school. But when you get out of here, you drop your body, whether you do it in the craft or the class did it, they decided to do it by themselves. But I felt it was to purpose in myself, But so did Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago. He just did it. His father knew he was going through that experience. But because he needed that experience to be able to be willing to even leave the last attachment to the planet, which was his human body. I'm not suggesting suicide, that makes that clear. It was a right for them, but not for human. Human, he's here to learn lessons, And Jesus Christ went to the spirit world to preach to the spirit, to tell them what was the right way. You are in the spirit world, you are not in heaven. Excuse me if I'm being too, this is something that everyone's programmed to believe. It's too strong to say sometimes because it's just a place where you are according to your growth, but it's not where he came from. He came from outer space. The kingdom of heaven is an area of the universe where life really exists and where time does not exist because time is a measure of decay. On planet Earth exists time because there is age and there is death. But where there is no age and there is no death, time doesn't exist. No, as we know it on planet Earth. So, once you reach immortality, you have to drop the human body because it's too primitive for you to become. You become an alien. You grab an alien body that doesn't have the primary, like human, it has no sexual organs. This digestive system is more refined. I don't know all the details, but that's what I was told. And so it's like when a human, a dog graduated into a human, it no longer have tails, no have forked legs, and so it becomes a human, primitive human. So that's the word, evolutionary way that is done. So once you leave the body, the human body, you are entering into a body that is immortal, never age, never die. You overcame death. You grab to the source of information that is true. You cannot be manipulated or tell lies because you have a connection with the truth. It's a mental connection. And also, you are free. You no longer have spirit. You don't have enough control over your mind, your thoughts, your actions, your words. So these are the three essentials: freedom, truth, and life. Is there anything better than that? Tell me, who planet Earth can offer this? Nobody. Everybody is mortal. And I can understand why a human who's mortal. How many people live in Savannah? Look how many here. You are taking advantage of information that is unvaluable. I know it. I know it's true. Because it was given to me because I was sincere in my search. That's my only difference from other people. Because I have been sincere. That's all. It's not because you have to be an intellectual, a scholar, or anything. No. It's come from the heart. It's sincerity. But you are being receiving, even though I sound a little unhumble, the most important information of planet Earth. It is the most important. It tells you how you can enter to the videos. He left a web page and he left 16 videos explaining all this information in a more detailed manner. Left by the real, one of the two witnesses mentioned in the book of Revelation. The two witnesses mentioned in the book of Revelation. The reincarnation of Jesus Christ, the real one, because many people say he's Jesus Christ and so on, and his Father, because I know it. I don't believe it, I know it. But then it has to be to experience. I cannot pass this experience that I have from you to you, even though I'm still here. I have a lot of things to work, I was placed here because I have to get a thing of money. Yes, I have a lot of things to do. So I'm not free of all, definitely. You have the videos, you have the webpage, there's a book, there is e-book, we converted it to e-book, so it could be sent by e-book because when they created the book, there was no e-books. So now they are. But the information is there. How much search do you have? That's up to you. That's up to you. Is it clear? Makes sense?
Yes.
It makes 100% sense. 100. And it's available to anybody. You might look to somebody who he's successful in the world. And a farmer in a humble house might be closer and better than whoever you feel like is to be admired. It's available to any human on planet Earth. If he is sincere, I repeat that, sincerity, it has to come from here.
It's a good message.
That's what I want to say.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And we will do a quick 10-minute intermission if anyone needs to get water or anything. And then we'll start back here at 9:10.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta look at your phone. Yeah, that's what we have left. Most of it is
Me too, yeah. Yeah, I'm like, and like the whole kind of goes bad. It's like I don't really know where to go there. Like and like the moment was 7% down, and like more possibilities for I'll be great.
that's why
I would die. Oh my god, it's so good. It's like, it's really like just a treat. Like it's really,
I know.
I love it. I think it's like,
No, I'm not saying
like,
anything.
with my parents, it's when you like breakfast.
But John is a little different.
It's good. I think it's
John's quite a
so,
lot of respect.
yeah, it's very like, breakfast is good for anything, but it's the only not anymore. I could have taken, but my couch has changed. Like I just need
Right.
a little bit more.
But John talks about that Jesus and the Father.
And I'm like, okay, now it's like, oh my brain, I'm like, okay, I have to go tomorrow now. Like,
Yeah, God, Father who live with you. That's not all Jesus said. He said, I know living. And it's going to use that.
I guess we have like
The road that you can many times. Anyway, that's one thing. And then also, we'll talk about Jesus saying that no man takes my life from me. I lay it down with the Bible. I lay it down with my own choice. And I can take it out of the right hand because I was lost. Because he was related to Solomon and he recognized he had the right to lay down a body. Because he didn't, no man takes it from him. Because he didn't kill him. He let them take his body. He didn't have to go back to Jerusalem when he wanted to go. He didn't have to organize the way for him to be found. He knew how to hide. And he decided, he was actually given that instruction of transformation. That's what I've got to do. Like, remember the smell? Though actually did have a meeting. He was at that meeting, the only meeting where he said, he said, woman is dragged and you will be so much further. Look at the rest of the whole chapter, which I do here. My work. You can see that he God going to the grave. The whole thing was still. The word kill, that away from something, I know is black from death. So the word with that phrase.
one day.
They, them, so you have to translate that as dying themselves. Dying by dying by themselves. You can translate it exactly. It's also destroying the human part and trying to build the next level. So the human part was the male has nothing wrong.
I feel like my Yeah, she basically turns down.
You're exactly, that's nice.
Oh, it's available online. Okay.
Right. No. I know this guy, last I talked to him, he was a life coach. I thought he was in Kansas City last night. That was maybe a couple years ago, the last week. Yeah, it's, we had some words, sort of. Oh, really? Wow, that's the movie script, that's the scripts that they were just talking about. Who is this? Oh, really? Thank you so much.
And you were like,
I'm actually not allowed to use like the one who's got their own name. Someone was asking me about credit cards. I think he's saying. Greetings. Hello. Not working? Hello. Hello. There you go. My voice is already strained, I can tell. I'm not used to talking like this.
So we've done this very backwards.
I'm
That's
not
weird.
gonna-
Could you give us a little background on you? Like
Me?
Yeah, like when did you become involved with the group? When did you start, and how did you find the group? And just like a
Okay.
quick little background.
Yeah, again, in my blog, Sawyer's story, I go into great detail. But, let's see if the synopsis would be, I was living on the Oregon coast after I got deported from Canada. And I was starting my life there. I was there for a while, playing in a band and doing stuff. And I saw a poster. It's one of the screenshots here on this, I don't know when it is, but you'll see the UFOs. It said why they are here, where they come from, when they will leave. And then it said 2 individuals say they have come from a level above human and they would be returning, and that they were sharing the formula of becoming a member of the next level. I don't think the poster actually says that, but that's what the gist of they were advertising. And I just remember at the time thinking, I wonder what these people are going to look like. thinking that they came from outer space. Okay. But I didn't like think that it was impossible that they came from outer space. Maybe that's pretty wild thinking, but I guess that's the way I was. I still am. But
How long were you in the group?
was that?
And how long were you in the group?
I was in the group for 19 years, from 1975 to 1994.
Okay. What about you, Wanody? How long were you in the group?
I joined it in 1976, was with the group until, well, I decided to go on my own at a certain point, maybe in the 80s, 81, because I felt I could do it on my own. I was very extremely independent.
Yeah.
And that was my weakness, actually. My weakness. Am I talking?
Yeah.
So, though then contacted me somehow, and then next level way to offshot get out. It's just you run into somebody. It's like coincidence, not coincidence.
You were in
I
Venezuela
was in Venezuela.
when he got in touch with you?
Yeah.
But you don't know how?
I think it was through anybody or from somebody.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, then I joined the group in 91. Then I didn't feel I was growing. I was just not satisfied with my growth. And then I left in 92. I kept in contact with the class until 1997 when they left. And they sent me, I was one of the ones who said, all the packaging letters and script and the web page copies, so in case it failed, I could upload it, which I did. And the original videotapes, I do have the original videotapes. They want them out these things, so I hold them, just in case the authority here came to. And all this media serving the beast, try to discredit the most important people that they should listen, But of course, I don't know. I know, but I cannot talk for anybody else.
Right.
Well, then, but I kept in touch. I remember before I joined the class, I'm gonna tell my experience.
Yeah.
In 1975, I flew back home. This body was born in Venezuela. My soul had been born anywhere. For some reason, the next level placed me there. I sometimes wonder why, I don't know. I think I know, but I'm not sure. Anyway, but in 1975, I knew I was growing. I was feeling some kind of energy. Myself weird, But I was being assisted with information. I even remember when I was in a philosophy class, because it was an elective class. I was studying engineering, but it was an elective, so I took philosophy class, and then decided that I made a paper, and I titled the paper Revelation. Actually, it was going to be the real reps of Revelation, and surprise to me, anyway. And I explained how philosophers who play with war when one war support another war. I was very intellectual at one point, and involved in that kind. And actually, the real information is being revealed, not because of one word explained from another word. It's a game of words. The real information is being revealed. Like I said here. Anyway, well, I found it interesting. Then I had a dream. It's a 5th century. It was beautiful. That I came to the top of a mountain. And the top of the mountain, it was wet. There was this mold. There was this, greenish stone full of greenish, gross, attached to the is it called mold?
Like moss?
Yeah. Well, I don't know the word of this plant, but it's the one that the plant attached to the rocks, and you touch it and it's slippery. Well, everything was wet and had this kind of vegetation, and I looked up the stairs and I saw a cloud, but the cloud wasn't like a roof, uniform, and all the space had the cloud, but it was a thin one. But behind the cloud there was a very strong light, but it didn't hurt my eyes. Even though it was strong, heavenly light doesn't hurt. No matter how strong they are. So I was surprised, to see the light, but it was beautiful, very beautiful. And I was concerned, well, how do I get there? Because I got to the top of the mountain. Then I had to dream again, and I was floating there like a balloon. No, nothing was grabbing me, and I saw the mountain below. The light from the cloud, the light that was behind the cloud, could light the top of the mountain, but not behind. There was some kind of darkness, foggy darkness, farther down the mountain. It just could light up the top of the mountain. Well, I was concerned that I wouldn't fall because I wasn't being grabbed by a rope or anything. And I looked and I saw the nice light. It's very nice light. But anyway, it was a dream, but it was like a 5 cents dream. And well, I woke up. Later, 1 month later, I was given information. I realized it was true. This is true. That's when Bill was interviewed in the New York Times magazine. And in the New York Times magazine, there is a picture of them in one of those slides, and where he is standing and he is sitting. And right below that picture in the New York Times magazine says, we came to show mankind how to get off the top of the mountain. Which was the dream I had? Which was the dream I had?
That's really
I'm
interesting.
100% sincere to you. Whether you believe me, it's okay.
Wow.
I
That's
remember
really
when it's
interesting.
in the,
Yes.
So let's get right into some Q&As. I see you. I'll start with this area. All right. Do you want to use the mic or?
Hey, you've mentioned Buddha and you've talked about Jesus some, and I was just curious about what your thoughts were on other religious leaders like Muhammad or Joseph Smith with Mormonism, L. Ron Hubbard with Scientology, just things like that.
Well, I have to be sincere with you. All religions lead to Satan, or every one of them. And some of them are greedy, like Scientology. Excuse me, it's my own opinion, of course. Greedy, 100%. They'll help you. The more money you give to them, they help you. Otherwise, they won't help you. It's very obvious. What more proof you need? They just want your money. That's all they care. But all religion leads to Satan. He wants you to believe foolishness, to believe lies, so you don't grow. You believe you are being a good human, a good mammalian, have a nice family, a nice kid. I'm not against it, But if you want to go, if you want to go to the real kingdom of heaven, you have to outgrow it. You have to outgrow it. But he wants you to believe foolishness, so you stay human indefinitely. And many people are spiritually lazy. They don't want to take the effort to suffer and grow. Sometimes you suffer in the right direction, and it's good for you. Suffering in the right direction. And people prefer pleasure. Pleasure is very dangerous, extremely dangerous. And when we are tempted on pleasure, or liking pain in the right direction. I'm not talking about masochism or anything like that. And so Satan tries to, through religion, to education, to human values, on everything on the planet that you see as valuable. That's why it makes humans are immortal. All humans are mortal. They are limited time of birth. It's not that they are cursed. It's just, this is in school. You make your choice. God give you free will, and so you are not a puppet. But if you follow His laws, if you follow His rules, if you follow God's will, you will get there. It's a thin road. It's not a wide road. It's a very small road, but it's the most important road. I answer. I guess I answer. I'm sorry if I was sincere, but I'll tell you the truth.
It is. Just a quick thought on that. I guess how does Tiendo's teachings differ from a religion? I mean, I do agree in a lot of ways. I'm just curious how they differ.
Well, because it differs because you have to overcome all mammalian behavior, and you have to gain control over yourself.
Okay.
And it is the most requirement you can get on any endeavor to actually get closer to God.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh.
Okay. Any other questions?
I want to add something to that.
Sure.
Okay. I think part of what one already is saying, it can be a little bit complicated. Okay, like for instance, Doe at one point said, yes, he understands that people see us as a religion because it's a belief system, right? And that's what a religion, if you look it up in the dictionary, it's going to say that it's a system of beliefs. And maybe there's some other parts to it. Okay, but whenever the next level sends one of their workers to incarnate, take a human vehicle, and communicate with humans, certain humans that are given deposits of souls so that they can advance in their growth. When that individual older member leaves, that's when a religion forms around them and becomes a distortion of the truth and dilutes the truth. The truth isn't like some philosophical word. The truth is what is real. But even though we can't perceive that it's real necessarily, because we have to grow to perceive what reality is. Okay, so the next level also has different experiments. And because everybody on the planet potentially is in school. And it's like the way that Tiendo described it was like there's 12 grades in school. And in the first 6 grades, you're getting into your humanness. So an example of somebody in the 6th grade would be somebody that's got all their finances in order, they're well-to-do, they've got a good career, they've got a nice family life. And it doesn't mean they don't have problems, but they have, they're even paying for their grave, and their kids can go to school and go to college, and they give to certain charities and part of different groups and things that are philanthropic or whatever. Anyway, that's being like the best human you can be. You're growing into that. But the next level doesn't want you to stop there. So they have ways of instigating difficulties that start to remove those foundational blocks that people built their lives upon. And so somebody might lose their job, and they might feel like they're a failure, and they go kill themselves. I'm not saying that always happens, but like during the Great Depression, that was supposedly happening quite a bit. Okay, because people were losing their fortunes. But that's a lesson. That's not a time to lose your life. That's a time to recognize, oh, I guess this direction isn't, maybe I need to change my direction. Maybe I need to reevaluate what's important to me in life. And so every negative can then be changed into a positive. And as we change the negatives into positives, whatever they are, then we're advancing through the grades in school from 6 to 12. It doesn't matter what part of the civilization we're in. The same lessons are always there. There's just more technology or more, but the same, kings and queens and dominating other people and enslaving people and all those kind of things are all lesson opportunities. They can all be grown from. And it doesn't justify the ones that are taking advantage of people. Okay, now, so during the course of the human kingdom, like for instance, Joe talked about the Buddha, and how the Buddha was teaching, of separating from the family and moving into the mountains and trying to give all his attention to what his idea of God was. And there were questions posed to the Buddha about what God was, and does God exist? And he said yes, and then he said no, and he said both kind of answers to questions, because I think I'm not that good of a student of Buddhism, but I read enough of it, I think, to understand that he was trying to deal with the people to what they could handle in separating from their humanness. Because it's not human to go up into the mountains and try to give all your energy to God. That's not human behavior. That's, and actually it's detrimental to growth, because you need to have human experiences in order to know what the pitfalls are, in order to overcome the negatives that happen through life. And because that's what generates strength, by dealing with suffering, yes. Suffering is not, growth isn't easy. When someone dies in your life, it can be very hard to deal with. But you can actually grow from the experience. And when a child dies from like a disease, some people can say, well, God is, what kind of God allows a child to get cancer, But think of the growth opportunities for that child. They can learn a lot of things in a very short time about life. From that spirit can grow a lot from that experience. Not that the next level actually gives those people cancer. In fact, I think most of the cancer comes from humans, doing things to mess with the genetic code, with their chemicals and stuff. But anyway, so what I'm getting at though is that even though the lessons can be very difficult, they can all be changed into positives. And members of the next level are masters of changing negatives into positives. Okay, so another aspect
Does
of
that
it.
answer your question? Okay. Let's go to another one. So
No, I want to get to Muhammad.
Muhammad?
Yeah.
Okay. Or you want to incorporate that into potentially another question?
All right, sure.
All right. Who has another question?
Huh?
I'd like to take to the point.
Yeah.
You do. Do you want the microphone? Can you speak really well?
You're kind of far, yeah. Okay, I guess two-part question for both of you. When you found out that they had left, I guess what was your gut reaction to that? Like, were you happy for them? Were you shocked? Were you, jealous? Or, and I guess, is the way you felt then still how you feel about it now, or has that kind of evolved over time?
Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Well, my reaction when I received the package was of desperation. They can't leave me behind. I felt like my world fell apart. Completely. It was my only valuable thing on planet Earth. And little by little, I saw that they gave me the option to follow them, which I still have. But they also has to overcome humans, to overcome. So it's a two-point sword. And I knew I had to teach the information, even though in spite of all this negative media that serve the beast, now people are more aware of how many lives, how humans are, the human world is manipulated through news or lies. They don't tell the truth. They tell the information they want you to hear, so they get the emotional response that they want from you, and so on and so forth. So I was kind of shy to talk about it because I felt people were not going to listen unless they were real awake. But there were some awake, yes. No many, but there were. But now people are realizing more the shape, the face of the beast. They are being more aware of what's really happening. Who runs the planet? I don't know if we are enough awakened people here. And so, and how they are so shrewd, how they can create wars, and they can create misery, and they create hunger, and they create all this unnecessary situation for the planet. When they plan to have all the wealth they wanted. But there are forces that want to keep it that way. It's a long story short.
I wasn't surprised really, because we talked about it so much before we left, and there was some shock a little bit, because we talked about a number of things that we didn't do. So, but I felt like I had to go public. And even though I was a bit afraid of it, doing so, I did rise to that occasion, at least. And I think I talked about it before a little bit, that I ended up, But, yeah, because, see, I don't think of them as dead at all. I can't prove it to anybody, but I know that they're not dead. The vehicles are dead. I don't doubt that. I'm not doubting that at all. Well, I could say more, but I'll keep it short.
All right. Does that answer? Perfect. Are there any other questions?
Look who's here.
Everybody, look.
Kathy's got a question. Why don't you come up here? All right.
Questions? Yes?
Well, and I want to add something. My information is placed in a seed. It's up to you to grow the field. But I did my part. What was my duty to do? What I am morally obligated to do it. What you do with that seed is up to you.
Yeah, I want to actually say something about that, because I just want people to know that there is no group, there's no new cult, there is no teachers. We're not teachers. We are students that had the most unusual experience you could probably have on this planet, and we both believe in it. But we're also wearing human vehicles that have the same kind of desires that everybody's human vehicles kind of have. And so, it's everybody's got their own degrees of overcoming. But I just want you to know, some people accuse me of trying to be a new T&O with my partner Kathy, and that we're dangerous because we're like saying, some people say to us that, they tell you that there's no group and that there's no suicide, but then one day they're going to say that Doe talked to them and said that now it's time to commit suicide. And so people, say that to me all the time. I mean, not that often, but enough to where it's something that I need to talk about every time I talk. Because it couldn't be further from the truth. I'm not capable of being anything like T&O. I can provide the truth from them, and that's why I do it. I've been doing this for the last 15 years. I've been talking to the public, because it does plant seeds, like Juan already was saying. And yes, it's up to individuals to do what they want with those seeds if they see it that way, or to reject it, or to ignore it, or to grow it. And how do you do it? What do you do? What in this new religion, so to speak? Well, what you do is when it comes natural. And what most people do that are attracted to this information is go find out what they taught. Read their book. Read, everything's free. Find the audio tapes and start listening to them. Watch the Beyond Human series on Heaven's Gate database or Vimeo. It's all free, and there's so much information that can actually give you exactly what they were teaching, and they didn't mince words.
Ask God for help.
Yes.
Directly. You are God. Follow your feelings. Follow your intuition.
But the
Let me
terminology
listen.
God, I don't think is appropriate.
Well, next level. Next level. Yes.
Well, I think,
Yes.
yeah, I know what you're saying. I want to just go back to what I believe Tiendo said in the beginning, is that, and they even said this at the end before they left, that go into your closet and, in your own privacy, and scream to the highest source you can imagine in the universe, in the heavens, in the distant heavens, not the near heavens, because the space aliens, they can pretend to be the gods. They can pretend to be your Jesus, your Muhammad, your Buddha, whatever it is that you look to as your source, or the scientists, or some politicians, or your leaders. And they try to talk through all those individuals to try to get people to believe in them. So they masquerade. They are always putting on a facsimile of the truth. They take the truth and they twist it a little bit so it looks the same in appearances, but then it tells you that what you must do is completely against the next level. Actually not being human anymore. But that's a process. It doesn't just happen overnight. We don't even know. When I joined the classroom, I didn't know what I had to overcome. She told me in a message that she sent to me, she wrote down, she said there were 3 things that would keep you off the spacecraft. In other words, the next level was not going to pick me up with my vehicle or with just my soul if I hadn't conquered these 3 things enough. Doesn't mean I had to get it perfect, because it's a matter of how much effort you put out. And the 3 things were, which some people would be embarrassed to say, but I'm not, because it's the truth. I was a little too pleased with myself. I used to argue with T in my head about that. I'd say, what do you mean, T, I was a little too pleased with myself? Does it mean you can be pleased with yourself? I guess so. But a little too pleased with yourself means that you're really kind of self-absorbed. You think you kind of know where you're going. You're not really looking for something else. Anyway, the second thing was life's to be seen as something special. Life's to be seen as something special. And when she said this to me, I didn't know what the hell she was talking about. It didn't make any sense to me. But I just looked at it and I thought, okay, I memorized it. And then after I left the group, I was thinking, life's to be seen as something special. I said, no, T, I don't want to be seen as something special. I want to be something special. And then I got the thought loud and clear in my head, if you want to be something special, then you have to become a member of the next level, because that's the only ones that are special. Everybody else is ordinary.
What was the third thing?
The third thing that I was sarcastic with humans is the way we talked about it. Because the way that Tiendo talked about us was a little different than people that were not in the group. And the human kingdom, they had their own growth. It wasn't that they were doing anything wrong or right. They weren't judged or anything. They weren't going to hell, none of that stuff. That's a bunch of baloney by the lower forces and the religions and stuff. But humans were not with the old members from the next level, receiving direct instructions on how to become a member of the next level. And so we were treated a little differently. So the reason that they said I was sarcastic with humans was because I would have jobs in the world while I was in the group. I was a cook, I was a programmer of computers, and sometimes when I was a cook especially, I would be with other cooks and they'd be yelling and cursing and, you know, throwing food around and being angry with the waiters and waitresses, and sometimes I would say something about it. I'd say, you don't have to be so crude about it, you know, I mean, they're just trying to do their job, you know, and they would be so angry with me. And T would say, that's not your job, Soyboy. You're not supposed to change them. You're there to earn sticks, actually, so that we can pay our bills. And you get lessons from being there as well. To try to do the best job you can do while you're there. But you're not there to try to convert them into your way of thinking. In fact, you really kind of want to not appear to be like from a cult, because they'll try to get rid of you. You know, they'll try to run you out of town and stuff like that, which does happen. We're being run out of Savannah.
All right, and what was you have another question over here?
Yes, you mentioned people sort of being more aware and kind of waking up to certain perceptions of the world, and you've certainly seen a lot of changes in culture and society. Do you think people today are more receptive to spirituality, or are people actually getting more involved in their personality and communications and influence or sides?
Yeah, I think so. Well, see, there's I think both things are happening. You know, people are, when we talk about spirituality, you know, that's this big catch-all phrase that, you know, it used to mean, you know, we're talking about ghosts and stuff, you know, and then it kind of meant that you were trying to, self-improvement was a form of spirituality, and yes, all those things I think are part of it, but yes, I think over time, the subject of Heaven's Gate, fortunately, has, more people are ready to actually think about what they actually taught, instead of just believing what the media says. But not only that, there's people growing, you know, obviously. And Tina don't even talk about this in some of the tapes, on how there's more evil people in the world, but there's more goodness, actually, because the goodness is growing in a few. I mean, I don't mean a few like three. I'm just saying a small amount of people that are growing their goodness. And when you're not selfish, you're growing your goodness for the most part. You know, I'm sure there's some kind of selfishness, that's selflessness that can be not good. You know, I mean, everything can be twisted. But when we treat each other like the way that Jesus taught, you know, like the way that you want to be treated, love your neighbor as yourself, that was the second greatest commandment that Jesus left. He said, you know, give all your love to God, which the word is actually theos, which means the God's plural, it's the next level members. When you give all your love and all your strength and all your mind and all your emotions to God, that's the ultimate destination, because that's when that individual, that soul, is ready to actually graduate to membership in the next level, okay, when the opportunity is provided. Okay, but so the second rule, though, is love your neighbor as yourself. Is like, you know, I would talk about that like the 51% kind of thing. So, you know, you're going to do for somebody else to help somebody else. That's how we show that love, right? Because love is actually a verb, right? It's something that you do. It's not something that you just talk about. If you don't do it, then it's kind of worthless, I think. But spirituality, see, is taking all these forms. And so now you have people that think that when you die, you're actually free from the human condition. When they need the human condition in order to grow to be free of the human condition. I know it sounds kind of funny, but...
Does that answer your question?
Okay.
So we have time for one more question, last call. Okay. Anybody else who hasn't asked a question? Have one? All right, what was your question?
Why? Like, why do these beings, these upper level beings care about us? And why do they want us to join them? Like, what, I want to say, like, what's in it for them, but I know from hearing you talk that there wouldn't be anything in it for them. So what is their motivation?
Well, the creator, the chief of chief, want to share the creation. So he make it available to whoever wants to be in the place that he, you can grow infinitely if you want to. So he created the universe, but he wants to share it with whoever wants to grow.
Yeah, he's not a he, by the way. We just use that term because that's the terminology for it. But he's talking about the chief of chiefs. Because Theodore talked about that there's older members and there's younger members in the next level. And there's different degrees of that because they're still growing. They're not like void of growth. But it's their joy. They have a lot of joy when they have a new member of the next level. It's like if you had something that, like you had a company that was doing great things around the world, you would love it to have people join you in doing those things. You would get a lot of pleasure from that. They don't need us though, but they know that what they have is real, and it's more real than what we have, because we are temporary life forms. They're not temporary life forms. And they know that you're going to be doing tasks that are going to blow your mind. You're going to be, it's going to be fantastic to be in that environment. And so they want to share that. They love it.
All right. Any other thoughts? Oh, you have one. What's that?
Actually, Sawyer, what was your website again? I was trying to remember and I didn't remember your URL.
Well, I've got a few. I've got one where I do live streams. It's called on YouTube. It's called 3SPM, which is the number 3 as a digit, and SPM, which stands for Stone People's Movement, because it was the name of the band.
You can see the videos, the left 16 videos. You can see the webpage, heavensgatealso.com.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that's the Heaven's Gate website, but she was talking about mine.
Oh, okay.
And so the other one for me is Sawyer HG, like at Heaven's Gate, SawyerHG.wordpress.com.
Thank you.
But yeah, I encourage everybody to go to the heavensgate.com website or the website that Wanodi was actually sent the website by Doe. And so the ones that are running the website right now, the heavensgate.com website, were also given that website by Doe. But they are trying to keep anybody else from sharing the information with people. And so because they're suing me for sharing information with people, which is a terrible breach of the next level's consciousness, in my opinion. But because of that, Wanodi started a website called heavensgatealso.com with the same code so that, so people could go to that.
You can also see the videotapes Beyond Human. There are 920, I think, audio tapes, which is the nitty-gritty of the information. It's like the Book of Enoch and the Bible and plus 21st century information.
lot of
More
stuff.
information on that, you can, it's 920 audios. They are in the web, in YouTube, actually, I placed them.
He's in Venezuela, so they can't really sue him.
Yeah,
but,
they can also make sure that I got a cloud out of
I
this.
know, it's terrible. And they're listening to this because this is being live streamed, and they already threatened Chloe with, it's ridiculous. And we're not breaching any copyrights. I mean, we would like to show you more things that we have from them. You know, like playing little clips and tapes and things, you know, we would like to do that, but they won't let us, so
You have a lifetime of information there.
they're suing me and Kathy for hundreds of millions of dollars. Ridiculous.
Okay. Any other? All right, well, thank you all for coming. Hopefully this was a very thought-provoking evening.
Good to see you all.
And then I know Sawyer, I forgot to mention, but you have some books that you wrote, that you're.
I have a big fat book that I wrote.
You might get discouraged by the spirit you have in your aura, not to follow information. To look for comfortable situations. They don't want you to be free. They don't want you to get rid of them. They want to draw the energy from you. So they will discourage you to follow through with this information.
And I'll be staying around if anybody wants to talk a little bit more. Oh, I'm sorry I left you all for our intermission. I didn't pay attention to anything in the chat there. You didn't get here early enough for me to play them?
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay. You like the drums?
Oh, sorry. That was one of my questions, if you still played music.
How much is your book?
Yeah, I do still play music. Well, I thought we were selling them for $50, right?
Not for talking.
Yeah, I don't really play much because I just don't feel to. Sure.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for your
Maybe you
time
can.
today, sir.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right.
Peace.
All right, here you go, baby.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Same here. Same here.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet you.
My pleasure.
Thank you for coming today.
Pleasure to meet you, sir.
Okay.
Again.
You want to be in the middle? Okay.
All right, there you
Very
go.
nice meeting both of you.
Same here. See you again sometime, I hope.
Have a nice trip. Getting here.
Yeah,
Still streaming here. I don't know if I should cut it off at this point. You guys bored now?
You're in Tennessee, right?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna turn it off for now, and I'll get to your comments later. And
I wonder how
hope this was useful.
it seems to be very well.